The Big Bang never happened. What actually created us? You were told a story when you were young. Maybe it was in a classroom. Maybe it was a documentary. Maybe it was a poster on the wall of a science museum. The story goes like this. Roughly 13.8 billion years ago, everything that exists was compressed into a single point smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. That point exploded. Space, time, matter, energy, all of it burst into existence from nothing. And from that explosion, over billions of years came galaxies, stars, planets, oceans, trees, insects, and eventually, you. Every atom in your body, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in your lungs, all of it traces back to that one violent moment. You are, according to this story, the scattered debris of a cosmic bomb. It is a beautiful narrative. It is clean. It is dramatic. It gives us a beginning, a middle, and a direction. But what if that story is wrong? Not wrong in the sense that the science is bad, the science is extraordinary, but wrong in the sense that we have confused a chapter for the whole book. What if the Big Bang was not the beginning of existence? What if it was just a moment inside something much older, much stranger, and much harder to understand? If the Big Bang was not the start, then existence did not begin. It was already here. And if it was already here, then the question of what created us becomes something far more unsettling than a simple explosion. Before we tear the story apart, we need to understand why scientists believe it in the first place. This is not a fairy tale. The Big Bang model is backed by three of the most powerful pieces of evidence in the history of science. You need to respect this evidence before you can see what it actually proves, and more importantly, what it does not prove. The first piece of evidence is expansion. In the 1920s, an astronomer named Edwin Hubble looked at distant galaxies and noticed something strange. They were all moving away from us, not just a few of them, all of them, and the farther away a galaxy was, the faster it was running. It was as if the entire universe was a loaf of bread in an oven, and the raisins were all drifting apart as the dough expanded. If you play that movie in reverse, everything comes together. Wind the clock back far enough, and all the matter in the universe converges into a single, unimaginably hot, dense state. That is the logic of the Big Bang. The second piece of evidence is the afterglow. In 1965, two radio engineers in New Jersey named Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson accidentally discovered a faint hum of microwave radiation coming from every direction in the sky. It was not coming from any particular star or galaxy. It was everywhere. It was uniform. It was ancient. Scientists realized that this was the leftover heat from the moment the universe cooled down enough for light to travel freely. It is the oldest photograph in existence. A snapshot of the universe when it was roughly 380,000 years old, and it looks almost exactly like the Big Bang model predicted it should. The third piece of evidence is chemistry. The Big Bang model makes a very specific prediction about what ingredients should exist in the universe. It says that the explosion should have produced roughly 75% hydrogen, 25% helium, and trace amounts of lithium. When we look at the oldest, most untouched gas clouds in the cosmos, that is almost exactly what we find. The recipe matches the prediction. 3 predictions, 3 confirmations. That is not luck. That is a theory doing exactly what a good theory is supposed to do. And on top of all this, there is the way structures formed. The Big Bang model predicted specific patterns in the cosmic microwave background, tiny hot spots and cold spots that would act as seeds for the galaxies we see today. When we built satellites sensitive enough to measure those patterns, the match was extraordinary. The theory predicted the size and distribution of those spots decades before we had the technology to check. It passed the test with flying colors. So make no mistake, the Big Bang model is one of the greatest intellectual achievements in the history of our species. It took raw observations and turned them into a coherent story that explains the structure of the cosmos with breathtaking precision. These three pillars, the expansion, the afterglow, and the chemistry, form one of the strongest scientific cases ever built. They tell us that the universe was once in an extremely hot, extremely dense state, and that it has been expanding and cooling ever since. That part of the story is essentially settled. But here is the critical distinction that almost everyone misses. None of these three pillars actually prove that the universe was created. They prove that the universe changed. They prove that it went through a dramatic transformation roughly 13.8 billion years ago. But transformation is not the same thing as birth. And this is where the cracks in the story begin to show. Here is the mental shift that changes everything. We are taught to picture the Big Bang like this. Nothing existed. Then there was an explosion. Then the universe appeared. You see this image everywhere. Documentaries show a glowing ball of light expanding against a black background. Textbooks draw a neat dot on a timeline and label it the beginning. Teachers point at the dot and say, everything started here. But that picture is not what the physics actually describes. It is a cartoon, a simplification so extreme that it has become a distortion. What the physics describes is this. If you take the current expansion of the universe and mathematically rewind it, you get a universe that becomes denser and hotter as you go back in time. The galaxies get closer together. The temperature rises. The particles move faster. You keep rewinding and things get more and more extreme. But then, something happens. The math breaks. At a certain point, roughly 13.8 billion years ago, the equations of general relativity produce what is called a singularity. The density becomes infinite. The temperature becomes infinite. The volume becomes zero. And every physicist on Earth knows that when your equations spit out infinity, it does not mean you have found the truth. It means you have found the limit of your tool. A singularity is not a physical object. It is not a thing that existed in reality. It is a confession. It is the math raising its hand and saying, I do not know what happens here. My formulas cannot handle this. Think of it this way. Imagine you are using a map to navigate a forest. The map is incredibly detailed. It shows every trail, every river, every ridge. You trust it completely. But then you reach the edge of the map. The paper ends. The trails stop. Does that mean the forest stops? Of course not. It means the mapmaker ran out of paper. The singularity is the edge of the map. The Big Bang Theory brilliantly describes the evolution of the universe from a fraction of a second after whatever happened. But it says absolutely nothing about whether existence itself began at that moment. The explosion describes a process. It does not describe an origin. And this distinction is not a small philosophical footnote. It is the most important gap in all of science. Think about it like this. Imagine you wake up in a hospital bed with no memory. The doctors tell you they found you on the sidewalk and brought you in. They can describe your injuries. They can tell you your blood type. They can show you your x-rays. They have detailed records of every moment since you arrived at the hospital. But they cannot tell you who you are. They cannot tell you where you came from. They cannot tell you what happened before you were found. The Big Bang model is the hospital record. It is extraordinarily detailed and precise from the moment you arrive. But your life before that is a blank. And we have been treating the hospital admission form as a birth certificate. That is the error. We have confused the earliest event we can calculate with the birth of reality itself, and those two things might be completely different. Now we have to go deeper, because to ask what came before the Big Bang, you first have to wrestle with a concept that will try to break your brain. You have to think about nothing. Not the kind of nothing where you clear everything off your desk, not the kind of nothing where you empty a room. I mean absolute nothing. No space, no time, no energy, no laws of physics, no dimensions, no potential, no vacuum, no quantum field. Pure, absolute, philosophical nothing. Here is the problem. Physics cannot describe it. Physics cannot even point at it. Every equation we have, every theory, every model, requires a framework to operate inside. Gravity needs space to curve. Quantum mechanics needs fields to fluctuate. Thermodynamics needs energy to flow. If you remove all of those things, you do not have a blank canvas. You have the absence of the canvas, the paint, the artist, the room, the concept of art, and even the concept of absence itself. Now think about what the traditional Big Bang story asks you to believe. It asks you to believe that this absolute nothing somehow spontaneously generated everything. It asks you to believe that without any laws, without any cause, without any mechanism, existence simply popped into being. Some physicists will tell you that quantum fluctuations can create particles from a vacuum, and that is true. The quantum vacuum is a bubbling, fizzing soup of virtual particles that blink in and out of existence constantly. But the quantum vacuum is not nothing. It is a very specific something. It is a field with specific properties, specific energies, and specific rules. It exists within the framework of quantum mechanics. It requires space and time to operate in. Saying the universe came from a quantum vacuum is like saying a cake came from an oven. Fine. But where did the oven come from? The deeper you push the question, the more you realize that creation from absolute nothing may not just be unlikely. It may be logically impossible. You cannot get something from nothing because the concept of getting requires something to be doing the getting. The word from requires a starting point. Every causal word in our language assumes existence as a prerequisite. We are trying to use the language of the world to describe a state where the world does not exist, and the language simply collapses. This is not just a philosophical puzzle, it is a physics problem. Because the laws of physics themselves are something. They have structure, they have mathematical form, they exist as relationships between quantities. Where do the laws come from? If you say the universe was created by the laws of quantum mechanics, you have only pushed the question back one step. Where did quantum mechanics come from? Who wrote those equations? Not a person, not a god. The equations describe relationships between things, but in a state of absolute nothing, there are no things to have relationships. It is like asking what color silence is. The question uses categories that do not apply. The philosopher Martin Heidegger called this the fundamental question of metaphysics. Why is there something rather than nothing? And 2,500 years of philosophy have not produced a satisfying answer. Because the question might be unanswerable, not because we are too stupid to find the answer, but because the question assumes that nothing is the default state and something needs an explanation. What if it is the other way around? What if something is the default and nothing is the impossibility? What if asking why there is something is like asking why math works? It works because it cannot not work. Existence might be the same. It exists because non-existence is not a coherent state. This means one of two things. Either something we do not yet understand bridged the gap between nothing and everything, or there was never a gap to begin with. Let us explore that second possibility. What if the universe never began? What if existence has always been here? This sounds radical, but it is actually one of the oldest ideas in human thought. And modern physics is bringing it back to life in a way that is both elegant and terrifying. The idea is this: the Big Bang was not a creation event. It was a phase transition. It was a transformation of something that already existed into something new. Think about water. When water cools below 0 degrees, it freezes into ice. The liquid transforms into a solid. The structure changes dramatically. The properties change. If you were a tiny creature living inside the ice crystal, you might look at the rigid lattice of molecules around you and think that this was the beginning of your world. You might study the crystal structure and trace it back to the moment of freezing and declare that moment the origin of everything. But you would be wrong. The water was there before the ice. It was just in a different form. Some physicists believe the Big Bang was exactly like this. The universe existed in some other state, some hotter, denser, more exotic phase, and roughly 13.8 billion years ago, it underwent a phase transition. It crystallized into the form we see today. Space expanded, particles condensed. The laws of physics as we know them snapped into place. But the substance of reality, whatever that substance actually is, was already there. It did not come from nothing. It came from itself. There are serious scientific models that support this idea. In loop quantum gravity, for example, the equations do not produce a singularity. When you rewind time and the density gets extreme, the math does not break. Instead, it shows a previous phase, a contracting phase, an era before our era. The singularity dissolves into a transition point. The math keeps going backward through the Big Bang, and on the other side, there is more universe. Not nothing, more reality, different from ours perhaps, governed by different conditions perhaps, but real and existing. This is not fringe science. These are predictions from some of the most mathematically rigorous theories in modern physics. They do not prove that the universe is eternal, but they show that the math allows it. And in physics, what the math allows, nature often delivers. If this is true, then the universe does not have a birthday. It has an infinite past. The Big Bang is not the first page of the book. It is just the start of a new chapter. And behind that chapter are an infinite number of pages that we cannot currently read. The universe did not appear, it transformed. And that transformation might have happened an infinite number of times before. This brings us to one of the most dramatic ideas in modern cosmology. It is called the bounce, and it suggests that we exist because something died. Imagine the universe expanding outward, just like it is doing now. Galaxies spread apart, space stretches, temperatures drop. Over trillions of years, the stars burn out, the black holes evaporate. Everything fades into a thin, cold, silent mist of radiation. The universe dies, but it does not stay dead. Some models suggest that the fabric of space itself has a kind of elasticity. When the expansion reaches a certain extreme, it snaps back. The universe begins to contract. The mist is pulled together. The temperature rises. The density increases. Everything rushes inward. And when it reaches a critical point, instead of collapsing into a true singularity, it bounces. The contraction rebounds into a new expansion. A new Big Bang erupts. New particles form. New stars ignite. New galaxies assemble. New planets cool. And eventually, on one of those planets, new creatures open their eyes and wonder where they came from. This is cyclic cosmology. It is the idea that the universe breathes. It expands, contracts, bounces, and expands again, over and over, forever. Like a heartbeat that has no first beat and no last beat. Each cycle creates a new universe with potentially different properties, different strengths of gravity, different masses for particles, different rules for chemistry. Most of these universes are sterile. They burn out too fast or collapse too quickly or never form atoms at all. But occasionally, just by accident, the bounce produces a universe where the numbers line up, where gravity is just strong enough to build stars but not so strong that everything collapses into black holes, where the nuclear forces allow carbon to exist, where water is liquid at the right temperature, and life appears. If this model is correct, then the Big Bang was not a beginning. It was a rebound. It was the shock wave of a universe that came before us. We are not the first draft. We are a revision. We are built from the ashes of a cosmos that lived, expanded, cooled, collapsed, and died so that we could exist. You think you are original. You think this is the first time these atoms have been arranged into stars and planets and people. But it is possible that they have been through this cycle billions of times. We are not pioneers. We are inheritors. And the civilization that existed in the previous cycle, if it existed at all, is gone. Their art, their language, their love, their fear, all of it was erased by the bounce. Nothing survived. Nothing except the raw ingredients that were recycled into you. This is not just speculation. Nobel Prize-winning physicist Roger Penrose has proposed a specific version of this called conformal cyclic cosmology. He argues that when a universe expands long enough, when every black hole has evaporated and every particle has decayed, the universe loses all sense of scale. When nothing has mass and nothing has a clock, the infinitely large, empty endpoint of one universe becomes geometrically identical to the infinitely small, hot starting point of the next. Death and birth are the same shape. The end is, the beginning is the end. Penrose even claims to have found evidence in the cosmic microwave background. Circular patterns, specific hotspots that he says are the scars of black holes that evaporated in the previous cycle. Their final bursts of energy were so powerful that they left marks on the fabric of the next universe, our universe. If he is right, then when you look at the night sky, you are not just looking at stars, you are looking at the bruises left by the death of a cosmos that existed before time as we know it. You are living in a haunted house where the ghosts are not dead people. They are dead universes, and the atoms in your body might have been assembled by hands that dissolved 1 trillion years before our Big Bang lit its first candle. But what if the answer is even stranger than a bounce? What if our Big Bang was not the only one? Not the only one in a sequence, but the only one in our neighborhood. Some physicists believe that what we call the universe is actually a tiny bubble inside something incomprehensibly larger. This idea comes from a concept called eternal inflation. To understand it, you have to go back to the very first fraction of a second after whatever started our universe. In that instant, space underwent a period of insane, exponential expansion called inflation. In 1/trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second, a region smaller than an atom was blown up to the size of a galaxy. This inflation is what made our universe so uniform. It stretched out all the wrinkles and bumps and made everything look smooth. It is one of the best supported ideas in cosmology. But here's the disturbing part. The math of inflation suggests that once it starts, it never fully stops. It stops in some regions, and those regions become universes like ours. Bubbles of calm space where particles can form and stars can burn and life can evolve. But outside those bubbles, the inflation keeps going. It keeps expanding at a furious rate, stretching the space between bubbles faster than the speed of light. And as it inflates, it randomly spawns new bubbles, new universes, each one with its own Big Bang, each one with its own laws of physics, each one expanding into its own private pocket of reality, completely unaware of the others. Think about a pot of water boiling on a stove. The bubbles form randomly. They rise and expand. Some are big, some are small, some merge, some pop. But the boiling continues. The pot keeps producing bubbles as long as the heat is on. In this analogy, our entire observable universe, every galaxy, every star, every planet, every person, every thought you have ever had, is a single bubble in an infinite pot that has been boiling forever. The Big Bang was not the beginning of everything. It was the beginning of our bubble. Our little pocket of space and time crystallized out of a larger, inflating field and started its own local story. But that larger field, that background, that metaspace, has no beginning. It has always been inflating. It always will be. Our universe is not everything. It is a room in an infinite hotel, and the hotel has no lobby and no exit. If this is true, then asking what created us is like asking what created the bubble in your glass of soda. The answer is not some grand singular event. The answer is that bubble formation is just what the system does. It is a natural, ongoing, unremarkable process in a much larger context. We feel special because we are inside the bubble, but from the outside, we are just one of an infinite number of fizzy little pockets that popped into existence and will eventually fade away. And here is the part that really twists the knife. In this model, every possible set of physical laws is realized somewhere. There are bubbles where gravity is 1,000 times stronger and stars collapse before they can shine. There are bubbles where the nuclear forces never allow atoms to form. There are bubbles where the cosmological constant is so large that space rips itself apart before a single particle can settle down. Almost all of these bubbles are dead. They are stillborn universes that flash into existence and dissolve into chaos without ever producing a star, let alone a person. We happen to live in one of the absurdly rare bubbles where the numbers work, where gravity is gentle enough for galaxies, but strong enough for planets, where carbon bonds in just the right way to build molecules that can copy themselves, where water is liquid in the temperature range set by a yellow dwarf star sitting at the right distance from the center of a spiral galaxy. This is not fine-tuning by a designer. This is selection by survival. Out of an infinite number of bubbles, we could only exist in one where the conditions allow existence. We are not lucky. We are filtered. The bubbles that cannot produce observers do not get observed. We are like puddle water marveling at how perfectly the pothole fits our shape. The pothole was not made for us. We filled whatever shape was available, and the shape happened to work. Now we arrive at the idea that will make you feel like the ground is moving under your feet. What if the Big Bang did not happen because there is no such thing as happening? What if time itself is an illusion? We experience the world as a sequence. First this, then that, past, present, future. You woke up this morning. You are reading this now. You will go to sleep tonight. It feels like a river flowing in one direction. But physics tells a very different story. In Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not separate from space. They are woven together into a single fabric called spacetime. And in spacetime, there is no universal now. There is no cosmic clock ticking for everyone. Your now depends on where you are and how fast you are moving. Two people in different locations can disagree about which events have already happened and which events have not happened yet, and both of them are correct. This leads to a picture of reality that physicists call the block universe. Imagine the entire history of the cosmos, from what we call the Big Bang to the far distant future, as a single frozen block. A four-dimensional crystal where every moment exists simultaneously. The past is not gone. The future is not waiting. They are all there, stacked together like the pages of a book that already exists. You are not moving through time. You are a pattern in the crystal, a specific arrangement of atoms at a specific set of coordinates. Your birth, your death, and every moment in between are all equally real. They are all carved into the block. Now think about what this does to the concept of a beginning. In the block universe, the Big Bang is not the first moment. It is just one end of the block. It is the edge of the crystal. But saying the Big Bang is the beginning of time is like saying the North Pole is the beginning of the Earth. You can stand at the North Pole and say there is nothing further north. But that does not mean the North Pole was created first. It does not mean the North Pole is the origin of the planet. It is just a boundary, a mathematical edge. The same might be true of the Big Bang. It is a boundary condition, a geometric feature of the shape of spacetime, not a moment of creation, not an event that happened, just a place where the structure tapers to a point. If this is correct, then asking what happened before the Big Bang is like asking what is north of the North Pole. The question does not have an answer because the question itself is malformed. Time does not extend past that boundary because time is part of the structure and the structure has that shape. The universe was not created at the Big Bang. The universe simply is. It exists as a complete timeless object. And the feeling you have that things are happening, that time is passing, that the present is moving forward, is a feature of your consciousness, not a feature of reality. You are experiencing the block one slice at a time. But the block is not being built as you go. It is already finished. Every sunrise and every funeral and every laugh and every scream is already embedded in the geometry. You are not watching the universe unfold. You are walking through a sculpture that was never assembled because it was never not there. The past is not gone. It is just behind you in the block. And the future is not uncertain. It is just ahead of you, waiting for your consciousness to arrive. This is not a metaphor. This is what the equations of general relativity actually describe. The math does not have a variable for now. It does not have a mechanism for the passage of time. The equations treat all moments equally. Tuesday and Thursday are equally real. The dinosaurs are still there in their region of the block. The heat death is already there in another region. Your birth and your death are both fixed points in the geometry. The sensation of moving through time, the feeling that the present is special and that the past is disappearing, is produced by your brain. Your neurons store memories of earlier coordinates and compare them to current sensory input, and this comparison creates the illusion of flow. But the flow is not in the universe. The flow is in you. It is like watching a film. The entire movie is already printed on the reel. Every frame exists simultaneously. But the projector shows you one frame at a time, and your brain stitches the sequence into a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you stopped the projector and looked at the whole reel, you would see that nothing is happening. It is all just there, printed and still. This is the block universe. And in the block universe, the Big Bang is not the first frame. It is just the edge of the reel. So what actually created us? We have walked through 4 radically different possibilities. Each one dismantles the simple story we were told, and each one replaces it with something that is harder to hold in your mind, but closer to the truth. The first possibility is that the universe is eternal. It has always existed. The Big Bang was just a phase transition, a change in state, not a moment of birth. We are made of something that has no origin because it was never absent. The second possibility is that the universe bounces. It cycles through expansion and contraction, death and rebirth, over and over. Our Big Bang was a rebound. We are built from the recycled material of a dead cosmos. The third possibility is that our universe is a bubble, one of an infinite number of local regions that crystallized out of an eternally inflating background. Our Big Bang was a local event, a neighborhood phenomenon. Not the start of everything, just the start of our everything. The fourth possibility is the most unsettling. It is that the universe exists outside of time altogether, that it is a static, timeless structure where beginning and end are just geometric features, not events. Nothing created us, because creation requires a before and an after, and in the block universe, there is no before. There is only the shape of what is. Notice what all four of these possibilities have in common. None of them require creation from nothing. None of them require a magical first moment. None of them require an outside force to press a start button. In every scenario, existence is either eternal, cyclical, ongoing, or timeless. The universe does not need to be started because it was never off. We have been searching for a creator, a cause, a trigger. But the universe might not be the kind of thing that has a cause. It might be the kind of thing that simply is. And we, the atoms and the thoughts and the fears and the love, are not the products of a singular event. We are patterns that emerged from the deep structure of a reality that has no edge, no origin, and no explanation outside itself. This is the most humbling sentence a person can sit with. There is no moment you can point to and say, that is when it all started. There is no place you can stand and say, this is where the first thing happened. Every answer leads to another question. Every wall turns out to be a door to a bigger room. And behind that room is another room, and another, and another. The regression is either infinite or it loops back on itself, and both options are equally dizzying. We wanted a story with a clean beginning. We wanted someone to tell us that 13.8 billion years ago, a cosmic fuse was lit, and everything tumbled forward from there. It was comforting. It was tidy. But the universe is not tidy. It is not interested in making us comfortable. The universe is interested in being consistent with its own mathematics, and those mathematics point in every direction, except the direction of a simple origin. But let me tell you why this does not make things easier. It makes them harder. Because if the universe was not created, if it has always been here in some form, then there is no one to ask why. There is no designer to appeal to. There is no blueprint to decode. There is no purpose embedded in the foundation. The universe is not a machine built for a reason. It is a machine that built itself for no reason. And we are part of that machine. We are cogs that have become conscious, gears that can feel the grinding. We can ask why, but the machine has no mouth to answer. Think about the discomfort of that. For thousands of years, human beings assumed that existence had a point. Every religion, every mythology, every origin story in every culture on Earth gave us a narrative. Someone made this. Someone intended this. Your suffering has meaning because it serves a higher plan. Your joy has weight because it is witnessed by a cosmic judge. But if the universe was not made, if it simply is, then all of those narratives are stories. We told ourselves to avoid sitting in the silence, and the silence is vast. It is bigger than any story we can construct to fill it. This is the weight you have to carry if you accept the physics. The universe is not hostile. It is not cruel. It is not testing you. It is indifferent. It does not know you exist. The stars do not care if you are watching them. The galaxies do not care if you mapped them. The cosmic microwave background does not care that we decoded its message. The universe hums along according to its rules, and those rules have no preference for life or death, joy or suffering, meaning or emptiness. You are an accident of chemistry that figured out how to feel. And the feeling is real, the pain is real, the love is real. But the framework in which you feel these things is deaf to all of it. You are screaming in a room where the walls absorb all sound, and yet the screaming matters, not because the room cares, but because you do. This is the paradox that no equation can resolve. The universe did not create meaning. You did. The universe did not create beauty. Your brain did when it looked at a sunset and decided that the pattern of photons hitting your retina was worth remembering. The universe did not create love. Your neurons did when they fired in a specific pattern that made you ache for another person's presence. None of these things are written in the laws of physics. They are written in you. And you are temporary. You are a brief, fragile, absurdly unlikely arrangement of carbon and water and electricity that will persist for maybe 80 years on a rock that is 4.5 billion years old in a cosmos that may be infinite. You are a firefly in a cathedral, a spark in an ocean of dark. And that is not a tragedy. That is the whole point. Because here is what the absence of a beginning actually gives you. It gives you freedom. If the universe was created for a purpose, you would be obligated to fulfill it. You would be a tool, a means to an end that you did not choose. Your value would depend on how well you served the function you were assigned. You could succeed or fail at being human. But if the universe has no purpose, then your life has no predetermined job description. You are not failing because there is no test. You are not lost because there is no destination. You are simply here, breathing, thinking, feeling. And the meaning of your life is whatever you decide it is. Think about what that means practically. It means you do not need permission to matter. You do not need the stars to align. You do not need to discover some grand destiny hidden in your DNA. You do not need a cosmic sign to tell you that you are on the right path. There is no right path. There is only the path you walk. And the fact that you are walking it, that your legs work, that your lungs fill with air, that your brain generates the sensation of being alive, that is already the entire miracle. You do not need a second one. If you decide that raising your children well is the most important thing in the universe, then it is. Not because the cosmos agrees, but because the cosmos has no opinion. You are the only thing in the known universe that can have an opinion. That makes you more powerful than a supernova. A supernova can destroy a solar system, but it cannot decide that a flower is beautiful. It cannot choose to be kind. It cannot write a poem about the ache of missing someone. You can. And no amount of dark energy or false vacuum decay can take that away from you while you are alive. The Big Bang may have never been a beginning. The universe may stretch back into infinity. Time itself may be an illusion. But none of that changes the fact that right now, in this slice of the block, in this bubble of the foam, in this breath of the cycle, you are here. You are conscious. You are the universe looking at itself and asking questions. And the universe has never done that before. Not in the way you are doing it. Not from this angle. Not with your specific combination of memories and fears and hopes. You are the most complex structure in the known cosmos. 100 billion neurons firing in concert to create the experience of being alive. A galaxy has 1 trillion stars, but it cannot wonder about its own existence. You can. A black hole can swallow a star, but it cannot feel grief. You can. A supernova can outshine an entire galaxy for a week, but it cannot write a letter to someone it misses. You can. Do not confuse size with significance. The universe is large, and you are small. But the universe is simple, and you are not. The laws of physics can be written on a napkin. Your personality cannot. The rules of gravity fit in a single equation. Your relationship with your mother does not. You are the most complicated sentence the universe has ever written. And the fact that you can read yourself, that you can think about your own thoughts, that you can feel the weight of your own mortality, that is a level of recursive complexity that no star, no galaxy, and no black hole has ever achieved. So do not wait for the universe to tell you why you are here. It will never answer. It cannot answer. But you can answer for it. You can look at the cold, indifferent machinery of reality and choose to build warmth inside it. You can look at the silence of the cosmos and choose to fill it with your voice. You can look at the entropy that promises to dissolve everything and choose to create something beautiful anyway, knowing it will not last, knowing the sand will swallow it, knowing the stars will burn out. And you can do all of this, not because you have been commanded to, but because you want to, because you are the only thing in the known universe that can want. And wanting, that raw, hungry ache to be more, to do more, to feel more, is the single most extraordinary phenomenon in 13.8 billion years of cosmic history, or however long the universe has actually been running. The number does not matter. What matters is that right now, in this slice of reality, the universe has eyes, and they are yours. There is a metaphor that captures this perfectly. Imagine you are standing on a beach at night. The ocean is black. The sky is black. You cannot see where the water ends and the sky begins. There is no moon. There is no ship on the horizon. The darkness is not just the absence of light. It feels alive. It feels heavy. It presses against your skin like the weight of all the empty space between the stars. In your hand, you have a single match. You strike it. The flame is tiny. It lights maybe 3 feet in front of you. Beyond that, the darkness is absolute. You know the match will burn out. You know the wind is coming. You know that in 30 seconds, you will be standing in the dark again. You know the ocean does not care about your match. You know the sand does not remember your footprints. You know the universe was dark before you arrived and will be dark after you leave. So what do? Do you throw the match away because it is temporary? Do you refuse to light it because the darkness will win eventually? Do you sit down and weep because 30 seconds is not enough? Or do you hold it up, cup your hand around the flame, and look at the 3 feet of sand it illuminates? Do you notice the way the light catches the foam on the wave? Do you see the tiny shell half buried in the wet sand? Do you feel the warmth on your palm? Because those 3 feet are yours. That tiny circle of light is yours. The darkness does not own it. Entropy does not own it. The heat death does not own it. For 30 seconds, you are the only source of light on that beach. And in those 30 seconds, you see more than the darkness will ever see, because the darkness does not see at all. That is your life. That is consciousness. You are the match. The universe is the beach. The darkness is infinite and patient and permanent. But for a brief, glorious, unlikely moment, you are on fire, and the fire is yours. We have spent this time peeling back the layers of the oldest question humanity has ever asked. Where did we come from? And the answer, as it turns out, is not a single event. It is not an explosion. It is not a God pressing a button. It is not nothing becoming something in a flash of divine will. The answer is deeper and stranger than any of those stories. We came from a reality that does not require a beginning, a reality that may be eternal, or cyclical, or timeless, or all three at once. A reality where the Big Bang is just a local weather event in an infinite climate, where our universe is a single snowflake in a blizzard that has been falling forever. We did not come from a bang. We came from the deep structure of existence itself, from rules and fields and symmetries that do not have an origin because they do not need one. We came from the fact that mathematics allows us to exist, that the numbers line up, that carbon bonds to oxygen, that water is liquid at the right temperature, that neurons can fire in patterns complex enough to produce the sensation of wonder. You did not need a creator. You needed conditions, and the conditions were met. Not by design, not by intention, not by plan, but by the raw, indifferent, magnificent mechanics of a universe that has been running for longer than time itself. Stars formed. They burned hydrogen into helium, helium into carbon, carbon into oxygen. They cooked the elements of your body in their cores for millions of years, and then they died. They exploded and scattered those elements across space like seeds thrown into a field. Gravity pulled those seeds together. They formed new clouds. Those clouds collapsed into new stars and new planets. On at least one of those planets, chemistry crossed a threshold. Molecules started copying themselves. Errors in the copying created variation. Variation was tested by the environment. What worked survived. What did not work disappeared. Over billions of years, that process built bacteria, fish, reptiles, mammals, primates, and eventually a species that could look up at the night sky and ask where it came from. That species is you, and the chain that produced you is staggering in its complexity. Think about every link that had to hold. A star had to form in the right place. It had to burn for the right amount of time. It had to produce the right elements. It had to explode with the right energy. The debris had to land in the right cloud. The cloud had to collapse at the right speed. The planet had to form at the right distance from its star. The planet needed the right atmosphere, the right magnetic field, the right moon, the right amount of water, the right temperature range. And then chemistry had to roll the dice a billion times until the right molecule copied itself and the whole cascade of evolution began. Every single one of those links could have failed, and in most places in the universe they did fail. That is why we look at the sky and see silence. The chain broke everywhere else, but here, on this tiny wet rock, every link held. You are the result of a chain of causation so long and so fragile that it makes a spiderweb look like a steel cable. You are not the product of a single moment. You are the product of an unbroken chain of events that stretches back through the entire history of the cosmos, through the Big Bang, and possibly through an eternity of existence before it. You are the universe's autobiography. Every atom in your body has a story that predates the Earth. The iron in your blood was forged in the heart of a star that died before our sun was born. The calcium in your bones was scattered by a supernova that lit up a galaxy 5 billion years ago. You are carrying the corpses of dead stars inside your skeleton. You are a graveyard and a garden at the same time. And here is the final thought I want to leave you with. If the Big Bang never happened, if the universe has always existed in some form, then existence is not fragile. It is not a fluke. It is the default state of reality. Nothingness is the impossibility. Being is the norm. You were told that existence needs an explanation, that something cannot come from nothing. And that is true, but the conclusion is not that a creator was needed. The conclusion is that nothing was never the case. There was always something. There was always a field, a structure, a geometry, a set of rules, something that made the rest of it possible. And that something did not need to be started because it was never stopped. It was never absent. It was never turned off. It was always on, always running, always producing new configurations, new structures, new patterns. Think about what that means for the question we started with. What created us? Nothing created us. Not nothing as in no thing. Nothing as in the act of creation is not the right frame. Creation implies a moment of transition from absence to presence. But if there was never absence, there was never creation. There was only rearrangement. There was only the endless shuffling of an eternal deck. And one of those shuffles produced a planet with liquid water and a magnetic field and a thick atmosphere and a star that burned at just the right temperature. And on that planet, one of those shuffles produced a molecule that could copy itself. And from that molecule, through 4 billion years of trial and error, the shuffling produced you. You are not a miracle in the traditional sense. You are something more interesting. You are an inevitability. Given enough time, given enough space, given the right conditions, consciousness was always going to happen. Not you specifically, not this exact arrangement of atoms, but the phenomenon of awareness, the phenomenon of a piece of the universe waking up and looking around. That was always on the table, because the table has always been there. So when you look at the stars tonight and feel small, remember this. The stars are large, but they are simple. They are just balls of gas following simple rules. You are small, but you are complex. You are the most intricate thing those simple rules have ever produced. You are what happens when hydrogen is given 13.8 billion years to think about itself. And if the universe is older than that, if it stretches back into infinity, then you are what happens when existence is given forever to try every possible combination. And one of those combinations looked around and said, I am here, I am alive, I want to understand. That urge, that hunger to know, is not a flaw. It is the universe reaching its highest level of organization. It is matter becoming aware of itself, and no Big Bang or lack of a Big Bang can diminish the staggering improbability of that achievement. Go outside, feel the air on your skin. Look at the sky. Notice how the light bends through the atmosphere and paints everything in color. That color is not in the world. It is in your brain. Photons have wavelengths, not colors. Your visual cortex invented color to help you survive. Every shade of blue in the evening sky, every streak of orange at sunset, every emerald leaf in the garden is a hallucination that your brain created because it was useful. The world is not beautiful. You make it beautiful. And that is the most powerful thing any arrangement of atoms has ever done. Understand that you are not looking at the universe. You are the universe looking at itself through the only eyes it has ever built. The beginning does not matter. What matters is that the looking is happening right now. And right now is the only thing that has ever been real.